Before we get to Bret Baier, and Howie Kurtz a little bit later, let's get to the big three.
Number 3.
It's my time, not yours.
My God.
If you want to talk about
dividing this country,
it is
I follow you on your social media posts that tear this country apart. Sir, you don't tell me my time is over. Senator, you can't lecture me.
Lecture you. That's Cory Booker, likes to put on a show and just say and talk and not allow any answers. And Kash Patel wasn't having it. The FBI director personally attacked, but unlike most, attacked back as he defines the threats today. And we have the hunt and everything that went into the hunt for the Kirk's killer.
Number 2.
The federal government not communicating with the city what they're doing causes, fear. And to be honest with you, it may cause real challenges for local law enforcement trying to do their jobs.
That is J.B. Pritzker. It's kind of an interesting thing when you try to crack down on crime in Chicago and the governor of the state is insulted. That's what we're looking at now. Crime crackdown not stopping. Moving into Chicago, predictably, the city pushing back against the help coming their way.
Number 1.
After shooting Mr. Kirk, Robinson hid the gun, discarded the clothing, and told his roommate to delete incriminating text messages.
That is Jeff Gray in Provo, Utah, running through the evidence collected in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The investigation releases a mountain of information and evidence about the mindset of the killer, what it revealed, and maybe more that could be involved. And they're not shutting that down. Bret Baier joins us now, chief political anchor of Fox News, special report. He's got a book coming out. It's great. It's called To Rescue the American Spirit, Teddy Roosevelt and the Birth of a Superpower. Bret, first off, this has been, out of all the things that you've covered, that we've been on the air together about, what makes this feel so different since the Charlie Kirk assassination?
Well, I tell you, Brian, it's just profound in that it's had this reverberation across a ton of communities, not just here in the U.S., but around the world. And, you see these vigils continuing. And I think you see the fallout from it. I think because it was so public and because that actual shooting made its way around on social media, it also had this kind of spooky effect on people's minds of the thought of that happening, much like when you saw the video of RFK being shot or JFK being shot in the back of that car. It's a kind of indelible image that, it provokes emotion.
The other thing is he's your friend and he's your guest. I mean, he's somebody you think to yourself, especially my Sunday show, I had to space him out because, you can't have him on every week, but he always brings a point of view and he always has an idea and he could always move it. He doesn't give predictable answers and he is making news. And then to think that guy in the prime of his life, you could see him tossing out hats 1 minute and the next minute suffer the most horrific wound possible. It's really something that, and now at the eve of the internet, you don't have to wait for a film to be developed like the Zapruder film. You see it now. And the fact is, after yesterday, we know so much more about the suspect. Have you ever seen a press conference like that of such substance?
No, and I think that there was a need for it because a lot of people were going down the rabbit hole online, and it was getting a lot of even mainstream attention. And not to say that this investigation is finished or that there aren't other pieces of this or somebody couldn't have supported him, et cetera, but some of the theories out there were getting out there. And I think that was part of the reason they got so detailed in some of the evidence that they had. That thread text message with his boyfriend who's transitioning, I think was probably the biggest moment.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. Here is Jeff Gray yesterday, the Utah County DA, cut 12.
Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate. When asked why he did it, Robinson explained there is too much evil and the guy, referring to Charlie Kirk, spreads too much hate.
He went on to say, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. But yet I'm watching other channels and other pundits say we're still looking for a motive. He just told you the motive in his own words. He said everything except for say it out loud. He put it on print. In one it was a written letter, the other some text messages. Is it pretty clear we have the motive?
Yeah. I've seen that where it's like we don't have a motive yet. Well, what was the reading of the probable cause and the indictment, if you will? It was all motive. It was hatred for him, his belief that Charlie Kirk was spreading hate. It was, he felt that this was the time. He planned it for a week. In his own words, that is the motive. I mean, it's right there. And the other thing is that even today, after all of that, there are still outlets that are saying this kid is from a MAGA family and he was really a conservative who grew up in a gun culture, and that's the problem. It's baffling, and, I guess you can only say it so much.
Right. Douglas Murray echoes your thoughts. Listen to him last night, cut 24.
These are the same people who talk about misinformation and disinformation and much more. They're the ones doing that at the moment. It's very clear to anyone who looks at this what the ideology of Charlie's assassin was. It's been clear for days. Of course, those people on the left who've been lying about conservatives for recent years, smearing and defaming conservatives, calling everyone a fascist and a Nazi. Now they say, let's not talk about this, or let's pretend it's both sides. And did you see today, some of those same people who've been doing that were saying, look, there's violence on both political sides. Look at the attack on Governor Shapiro's mansion. They didn't mention that the person who attacked Governor Shapiro's mansion was a left-wing Palestinianist activist.
Yeah, he was going after him because he was Jewish. So Douglas Murray, again, that's exactly what you were saying. I mean, we don't pretend like we don't have the answer.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I think it's part of there's wish casting, I think, on some sides that this person fell into a different bucket, and it doesn't fit into the narrative that they really want. So it's taking them a long time to accept even a very detailed probable cause sheet from the district attorney.
Right. All right. So the other thing was the Kash Patel and some of the sparring that took place yesterday. It was almost like when you get some of these guys on that have been on the air for a long time, you better be if you're going to go after him, you better be ready to get hit back. He was ready to hit back yesterday. And some of the sparring that went on with Cory Booker. Do we have some of that? The Cory Booker as well as the one with Adam Schiff. I don't know. Do we? Yeah, let's listen to.
I don't think you're fit to him, the Bureau. But here's the thing, Mr. Patel. I think you're not going to be around long. I think this might be your last oversight hearing.
That rant of false information does not bring this country together. If you want to work on bringing this country, it's my time, not yours.
My God.
If you want to talk about
dividing this country,
it is my time.
I follow you on your social media posts that tear this country apart. Sir, you don't tell me my time is over. The people of New Jersey tell me what my time is. You can't lecture me.
You can tell me my time's over.
You may be the charge of the FBI,
not going anywhere.
but I am not afraid of you.
I'm not afraid of you, which was probably the most interesting statement after that. But you've seen a lot of hearings. This wasn't usual. Typical.
This wasn't Christopher Wray. Let's just say that.
Right.
Traditionally the FBI director in that mold is very quiet and
just takes it. Just takes it.
And just takes it and moves on, doesn't say anything. Kash Patel is not that kind of FBI director. So he pushes back. And listen, obviously we've seen Senator Booker in big moments try to make a big moment. His speech on the Senate floor, the Spartacus moment. I mean, there's multiple times. I think the Adam Schiff exchange was kind of really interesting in that, Adam Schiff is a focus of some of the investigation of Crossfire Hurricane and what came out of the House Intelligence Committee. And some of that in that exchange came out from Kash Patel.
So it's good. Just lastly, I think it's also important to bring up what you did last night. You had Senator Fetterman and Senator McCormick on. And that is like an old-fashioned Republican and Democrat. They probably didn't know each other before they both ran for the Senate seat. McCormick didn't get past Dr. Oz. Fetterman beats Dr. Oz. The other seat was Casey's. Fetterman came out for Casey. McCormick wins. But these two see eye to eye in a lot. Why was that important for them to call you to come on?
Yeah, it was right after the shooting. It was just a few days. And, everybody was still reeling. And they reached out and said, we want to do a common ground. And I've had both of them on individually with other senators on common ground, so they knew the format, and they wanted to come on together as the senators from Pennsylvania. They wanted to express this message that we need to talk to each other differently. I thought Fetterman was really pretty eloquent, about not going down the fascist Hitler road, about saying the left part of his party has been lost, but extremism that gets to violence, no matter what it is unacceptable. So we gave him extra time and wanted to have that conversation. I think it was good.
It was good, but there really is nobody. There was Sinema and Manchin, and you had Manchin on yesterday too. His book is really insightful. He also talks about you in his book. They called up Bret Baier and says, "I'm telling everyone, I'm not voting for this massive bill." And Bret Baier was so surprised when he came out and said, "I'm against it. I'm out." And he writes that in his book. But besides them, they were kind of a relief because I didn't know how they were going to react to anything because they had to be sold. They were looking to see what's best for the country. And we really have on the left right now, you really have only Senator Fetterman.
Yeah, Fetterman is like Manchin with a hoodie. And he's the one who's doing a lot of the reaching over. There's a few that are doing a lot of bipartisan things, but when push comes to shove, they kind of go to their corners. I think there's a hunger for more of that, what we saw last night, and we'll see. We'll see if it develops before 26.
All right, Bret. When is your book coming out?
October 21st. Drops October 21st, and you can pre-order now. BretBaier.com is one of the spots where it has all the links. But I'm excited. It's funny. You've done all these book tours, and in the wake of Charlie Kirk, we're having all these meetings about security and everything else. But I'm excited to get out there and talk about Teddy Roosevelt. Yeah, I know you're going to be stopping in Jacksonville, so I know they love you, and they'll be looking forward to getting you there over in northern Florida. Bret Baier, thanks so much. Best of luck. Pick it up to rescue the American spirit. You can't get it yet, but have it land in your inbox or at your house on publishing day.
Do you think the political violence problem on the right is worse than what it is on the left?
I think it's a false comparison in the first place, and I think we should have a leader that is responsible enough to denounce political violence, period. It's not about where it comes from. It's about the fact that it is happening. It is never okay.
He did. I guess she doesn't watch Fox News, Fox and Friends, because he did on Thursday. That is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who might be gerrymandered right out of a district. Howie Kurtz joins us now, Fox News political analyst and media analyst. Howie, always great to have you on. I want to play just some of the reaction and way people are handling this political violence. First off, there's no doubt about the motive, and there's no doubt that this is a strong case against the alleged assassin. And I find her analysis of the situation, which is going to get worse when I play another soundbite, disappointing. Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. Go ahead.
But you were tossing.
No.
Look, there's absolutely no question that most of the political violence in recent years have been committed by left-wingers. But it's not that Democrats never get this. I mean, just as one example, the burning down of the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania, Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro.
That was by the way, that was by a Palestinian crazy who didn't like the fact that he was Jewish. So that was an attack on a Jewish governor.
Right. But, everybody's got their grievances. I mean, look, my basic gut feeling here is that people who do this, who are attempted assassins or actual assassins, are insane. They're crazy. People who shoot up schools, they're nuts. And I don't care all that much about the motives. I think in political debate, it's fair to point out why somebody wanted to kill Charlie Kirk, who, even those who disagree with him are just deeply, deeply wounded by this. I know I am. It's heartbreaking. And he's got 2 little kids and all of that. But I think others are just sort of trying to capitalize on it so they can get their face on TV or on the radio.
Yeah, I mean, tell me if you can understand this reasoning. Cut 16.
Please tell me who is fostering this gun culture, right? I mean, the reality is that the average person on the left probably couldn't make a shot from 200 yards because they haven't been playing with assault rifles since they were a little kid. Like, that is just the reality of how people on the left typically work.
Do you understand what truth she's grounded in?
Sure, but I think I was as surprised as everybody else. I assumed this must be some expert marksman or something, and long planning. Well, apparently, according to his own words and the texts that investigators have recovered, he planned this in about a week, and I guess he grew up in a household that had a lot of guns, but I'm not turning this into we must do something about guns. There's a lot of things we need to do. But I must say that I tell you what really, really drives me crazy. And I'm sure you've touched on this, Brian, and that is the sickos out there who are celebrating this, who didn't like Charlie Kirk's philosophy for some reason or another, like, yeah, this is great, he said. And a lot of people have been fired over that, and they should be. I'm not saying you have to say that everything that Charlie Kirk did was completely defensible. If you have a different point of view, fine. But this is unacceptable in America. And people who can't realize that, and actually university professors, far left professors and others, including some journalists, have been fired and should be fired for that kind of twisted mentality.
Yeah, I mean, I hear it. I mean, a person who I think sounds like somebody that you're referring to that got it right is Jamie Lee Curtis. She's not a conservative. She's not a Republican, not close. But listen to her.
I'm going to bring something up with you just because it's front of mind.
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk was killed 2 days ago.
Charlie.
I'm sorry.
Kirk. Right?
Kirk. I just call him Christ. I think because of Christ, because of his deep, deep belief. But I believe he was a man of faith. Mm. And I hope in that moment when he died that he felt connected to his faith, even though I find his ideas were abhorrent to me.
Yeah.
I still believe he's a father and a husband and a man of faith. And I hope whatever connection to God means that he felt it.
You know what it sounds like to me, Howie, is that she saw the video. And that's why, in a way, one way I don't want anyone to see the video. And another way, I want everyone to see the video. Because he isn't just alive one day and dead the next. There's a reason. And the way he died really should scare people into understanding that how much this has got to stop. But your thoughts?
Well, first of all, good for Jamie Lee Curtis. And boy, that was a heartfelt comment, and we need more of that. Secondly, anybody who chooses to see the video, fine. But what's happening is these tech companies, X in particular, are automatically playing it for a lot of people who don't want to see it. And that's just because that's how they make their money, their algorithms and all that. And I think social media has a big burden here because, and they fuel the anger in this country. And there's a lot of anger in this country, and I understand why. But I don't think anybody should be forced to see it against their will.
So I think Discord's got to be under scrutiny. Now, I know this guy I don't know anything about him. I've seen him testify. But I don't know anything. I know he didn't say, let me put up a site that'll allow murderers to talk to each other. But there's a lot of these chat rooms that Kash Patel said yesterday that they are researching, maybe the hundreds, that are really concerning that a lot of this happened. And I'm wondering if there's somebody inciting some of this behavior on that platform in particular, because the Buffalo murderer also from there.
Look, we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Social media is a cesspool. There's a lot of toxic stuff on there, particularly for these people who don't even use their real names. They hide behind a screen name, and they would never say something like that to your face. They just wouldn't. But in a way, it encourages this sort of like online mobs, I guess I would say. But it's not like we're going back to the days, look, what rules now? Radio shows, podcasts. I still like cable TV. It's still how I earn my living at Fox. But I think there's a lot of blame to go around to these Silicon Valley giants.
So I want to talk about Kash Patel, and he was under scrutiny yesterday. He wasn't pulled in front of Oversight Committee. He was scheduled to be there. Mm-hmm. So it just so happened they were probably going to just grill him on Epstein, but instead they grilled him on this, the 33 hours it took to get him. A post that he made said they got him, and it was wrong. He should have phrased it differently. He told us on Tuesday, he said, I should have said we have a suspect in custody, obviously, but he wants to be transparent. He wants to be different. And then in 33 hours, they got the guy. But man, there's some fiery exchanges here. I want you to hear one of them that we haven't played yet. Here's one with Kash Patel and Adam Schiff, cut 28.
Afraid of you.
What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a political buffoon at best.
So that was the exchange of a guy that knows how to handle himself in debates, who is the FBI director. That's not Robert Mueller. That's not Christopher Wray. Your thoughts?
Well, look, every Democrat on that committee, and that was a classic example, was trying to get his sound bites played by being even more outraged and angry and so forth. And, it is, having covered hundreds of Capitol Hill hearings, it is a game that both parties play. But it seems like they're just talking over each other. And Kash Patel at one point gave it right back to him. He wasn't just going to sit there and take this constant stream of abuse from Democratic members. I think it made the Democrats look bad. It made it look like they were more interested in beating up on Kash Patel than they were in getting any real answers.
Yeah, I'm never getting used to the fact that when you have somebody in front of you, ask questions, wait for the answer. Ask questions, wait for the answer. It looks like speeches and yelling. And I always say at the end of it, what was the point? So, and both sides do that too. Big picture, Howie. I have never, and we probably will never experience again, a president willing to talk about everything at any time, multiple times a day. Also with people around him to capitalize on it, whether he's with a world leader or he's announcing an executive order. Could you express, with all your years of experience, how different even this Trump term is from any other you've seen?
Actually, it's kind of ironic because, Trump doesn't make any bones about not liking the media coverage of his presidency, which has been, 99% hostile, I would say. And you got the suit yesterday against the New York Times.
$15 billion.
Yeah, $15 billion, suing Wall Street Journal, successfully sued ABC and both CBS. But then he keeps going back to it. In other words, usually the behind the scenes stuff, journalists had to work to get, one or two anonymous sources. It all comes from Trump. All the years I've been doing this, there's always a Trump soundbite. He's even sounding off about NFL games. He doesn't like the new kickoffs. He has an opinion on everything. In other words, it's not just politics. People love that about him. Not everybody loves him, but people love that about him, and that he doesn't, except maybe, in national security, foreign policy stuff, he doesn't dodge the questions. He stops in front of the helicopter. He stops in front of Air Force One. I've never seen a president do any of this. And so the journalists who are beating him up have access that no one in the television age has ever had to a president.
I just don't understand. They should feel, even if you didn't vote for him or never would, if you have a job to do, Joe Biden made it so much harder. You had a press secretary that wasn't well read into any of the policies, just deflecting answers. We knew she didn't have the answers. Now we know she barely ever met with him. We knew a president's hand was off the wheel. Who knows if it was ever on? So for 4 years, you really didn't pursue anything. It was Fox and maybe a handful of others who said what's going on with the Ukraine situation, with Hunter's laptop and other things. But for the most part, we said to ourselves, what's going on here? We never see the president. He doesn't give press conferences. We watched the whole campaign fall apart. We found the truth come out. And then you have somebody who is 180 degrees different. Do you think, from the people you know from all your years, that they on some level appreciate the access?
Oh, they love it. And it also gets them on the air. It gets them on the front page and all of that. But a quick, interesting point, if I can briefly say this, which is MSNBC and CNN have stopped covering the Trump pressers. Now, if it's 2 hours, I can understand, getting out at some point. But Fox carries them all. And I think, but he always makes news. He always makes.
Yeah.
At 23 hours a day, you say whatever hell you want. But when the president of the United States comes on, and it's not just like he's giving speeches, he's taking questions from journalists, invariably making news. They've decided they don't want to give him that platform. Then they'll talk about, for the next 23 hours, all the news that the president made.
I did not know that. I should flip around more. I did not know that. Howie Kurtz, thanks so much. Always appreciate it. And congratulations on an unbelievable run on your Sunday show. And I look forward to seeing you all over the channel on our show, too.
Great. Thank you.
We all prefer that this end with a negotiated settlement that leads to the release of every single hostage, alive and deceased, that leads to the demilitarization and disarming of Hamas, so they can no longer pose a threat, not just to Israel, but everyone. We think Qatar could play a very key role in that. We don't want to see anything that undermines that. So that's why we added it to the trip.
That is the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. He went to meet with the Qatari leaders, but he also met with Benjamin Netanyahu, went to some historic sites, and I'm sure had substantive conversations. It looks like Netanyahu did meet with the press and said, I've been invited back to the White House in the last 2 weeks, and any type of friction that may have existed after the hit in Doha doesn't seem to be lingering, at least with President Trump. Did he, in fact, know what was going to happen in Doha, taking a shot at Hamas leadership on the eve of what would have been perhaps, but of course, all the last deals have been falling apart, a hostage deal that would have released about half of them? Yuval David's been working on this his entire life, especially since the October 7th attack. He's a journalist, political activist, an Emmy Award-winning actor, host, director, and filmmaker. Yuval is back in studio. So Yuval, the Doha hit, do you think it was necessary? Some people say it derailed getting some hostages out.
I do think that it absolutely derailed getting hostages out, but I also think that everything that Israel does derails getting hostages out, because Hamas tries to find any excuse to not release the hostages. This has been going on since October 7th, 2023. If Hamas really wanted to negotiate and have peace, they would have released all of the hostages immediately. But they're using the hostages, including the bodies of dead hostages, as pawns in some sort of game to continue to ensure that they have power.
And in Doha, they are outraged that they hit inside their country.
Sure, they should be outraged that they were hit inside the country, but what else is Israel supposed to do? Israel should, and I completely support Israel's trying to go after every Hamas leader and eradicating them. Hamas is a threat not just to Israel, but also to Gazans themselves and to the entire Middle East. And as we see Hamas supporters around the world supporting Islamic terror, I think that's wild. We need to eradicate Hamas, and I support Israel's action.
So right now, there's a major operation in Gaza City. They say thousands are being displaced because they got flyers that said, get out, we're going in. So this is going to be, it looks like the end of the operation. They've surrounded the city. That's where the Hamas leadership is. What worries you most about it?
What worries me most is that people think it's going to be the end, but it's not the end. This war seems to have no end in sight. Until Hamas is not eradicated and until every hostage isn't released, how is this war going to end? That is what's frightening. The fact that Israeli soldiers are being wounded and are dying with numbers, it seems like every week in the news in Israel, there's another soldier who 18, 19, 20-year-old who's dying and fighting for his or her country. This is exhausting. The Israeli population is exhausted by this war, and people need to recognize that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. It's the only country in the Middle East that has freedom of religion, that has free expression, that allows people to run for office or protest against the government. Israel wants to just have a normal life in a democracy like we have here. That is what exhausts me. And then, of course, there are innocent people in Gaza who are also being targeted and are also being killed. I don't want to see anybody die. The ones I do want to see die are Hamas.
And they're probably all holed up in Gaza City. A lot of times they go into hospitals and schools. That's the problem with targeting them. Hannah Einbinder, somebody who won an Emmy Award for Best Supporting Actress in What Is Moved Hacks is the series that she's in. So she wins an award and uses her great moment to say this.
I just want to say, finally, go Birds, and Free Palestine. Thank you.
Right, that was F-ICE and Free Palestine. And then she doubled and tripled down on it. She says as a Jewish person, it's incumbent on her to speak up.
Sure. As a Jewish person, it's incumbent on her to speak up because Jewish people and Jewish tradition and faith, we are supposed to care about civil rights, social justice, and human rights. But what she does is, in the name of her Jewish identity, she practices performative politics and spreads misinformation where she says that it's perfectly acceptable for her as a Jew to be against Israel, to be anti-Zionist. In Judaism, every Shabbat, every Friday night, we have prayers about the land. We have prayers about our indigeneity. Every Jewish holiday has prayers and information that we share and stories that we share about the land and about our indigeneity. Every Jewish holiday talks about that. So for her to say that according to her, or as a Jew, as she says, I hate when I hear somebody say as a Jew because I have a feeling that something stupid is going to come out of her mouth. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, she just celebrates this moral posturing as if she is on a platform where she must share something about the world. But what information and education does she have? She's funny. Hacks is a great show. I really think it's a great show. She, as a human being and as a person, I think is a morally reprehensible person.
Well, I certainly don't agree with her, I'll tell you that. I know nothing about her, but Hamas praised you. If Hamas praises your speech, just know you're probably on the wrong side. And the cover of the New York Post 2 days ago, you know Hamas praised, and they put her picture up, but you know what they did? They blurred out her chest. You know why? She was wearing a dress that showed skin. So we're going to praise her while making sure everybody knows if you worship Hamas, don't expect to wear anything like this.
Look, the New York Post quoted me in my statements in that article. I was honored to be quoted in that, as I really try to share truth. I try to spread factual information and combat people who are spreading propaganda. Hannah claims to have friends in Gaza. What about her friends who are Jewish? What about her friends who are conservative? I mean, something that we're seeing is this performative outrage that's coming out of Hollywood only exists for specific people. But where's the outrage when Jewish people, conservatives, or centrists are targeted? Hollywood only condemns hate when it fits their script. And that's a problem. She's sharing an obvious script without information beyond those lines that she shared.
And one person who's been strong, not as strong as you, Yuval David, from your community, your former job for now in Hollywood, is Jerry Seinfeld. He's been speaking up, visiting Israel, getting backlash, getting protested. You're protesting the most neutral man in the world. And you're protesting him at comedy clubs, screaming out. Sometimes he's getting pushback, and he doesn't care. Well, he's pushing out. How much does that mean?
I think it means a lot for Jerry Seinfeld to speak up and to use his massive platform and fame to do what is morally correct. And he even talks about the fact that we should have conversations, but where it's appropriate to have a conversation and where it's not. Jerry Seinfeld in his shows makes fun of the people who try to protest him in the middle of his show, saying, oh, yes, of course, this is an exact place where we should have political conversations. He makes fun of them because people think that they need to have the right to interrupt other people in other places in life to talk about politics.
And he said, too, he described the Free Palestine movement as an anti-Semitic and compared it to the Ku Klux Klan. And he did it at Duke University, where his kids went to school, where he was a commencement speaker, and he got protested then, or hisses, and he got it again. But he does not care. He says, I really feel empathy for the Israeli people, and I know he doesn't want to get political, but he does speak when asked about this, but I'm sure he doesn't want to be known for this. He sees some of the backlash that people have gotten in the past. I'll give you an example. It's Alec Baldwin. You know, he takes a position, a left-wing position, but he embarrasses himself because he's uneducated about all this stuff and just screams and loses his temper. But is Seinfeld risking things? He's probably risking maybe his place, or is he so secure like John Voight that he could say whatever he wants and no one can touch him?
Well, I think that Jerry Seinfeld is probably much more secure than John Voight in terms of his massive wealth and success that he's achieved. But something I noticed with Seinfeld is he was actually very silent about this until his comedy shows started to get interrupted. When it started to affect him in his shows, he then started speaking up. So he wasn't practicing this performative activism within his shows or within his career until people started targeting him. Why would people target Jerry Seinfeld in the name of Gaza, in the name of the Palestinian movement, in the name of Israel? Because Jerry Seinfeld is a Jew? That's exactly why Jerry Seinfeld was targeted and forced into this conversation.
He says, by saying free Palestine, you're not admitting what you really think. So it's actually compared to the Ku Klux Klan. I'm actually thinking the Klan is actually a little better because they come right out and said, we don't like blacks. We don't like Jews. Okay, that's honest. Why don't you guys be honest? So he's just calling people out, doubling, tripling down, because, you know, he's confident that he's on the right side here, and I think it's great. But they did a recent study among Democrats, and they said, do you support Israel's offensive into Gaza? Only 9% in support. Does that surprise you? When almost 50 to 60% of the votes, the Democratic votes, go to of Jewish Americans go to Democrats.
I think that that's a very big problem when we look at what is happening within the Democratic Party. There are so many Jews in the United States, including myself as a former Democrat, who understood that part of my American Jewish identity included being part of the Democratic Party.
Harry Truman was the one to recognize Israel and he was a Democrat? Is that the reason?
That's the reason. But if you even look back at how the Democratic Party courted Jews to join them, it was back in the late 1930s and early 1940s when the Democratic Party wanted to have more power and they were courting the unions. Well, Jews in America didn't have the same rights and protections in the workplace as other people did, so they joined unions. They even created unions. And when the Democratic Party courted the unions to gain more clout, that's when Jews, quote unquote, historically, and I'm doing air quotes, joined the Democratic Party. So when people say that Jews historically have been part of the Democratic Party, we have to understand why and when. But also we must remember that the Democratic Party was the party of the KKK. The Democratic Party was the party that empowered the teachers, Jim Crow, empowered the teachers union to make sure that there's one specific narrative of Americans and white supremacy across the country. The Democratic Party was the party that supported segregation. So sure, parties can change, things can change, and absolutely they should, but we need to really recognize the Democratic Party for what it is. I had a wake-up call when I recognized far too much posturing and far too much allowance and acceptance of anti-Semitism, especially when it's masked as anti-Israel or anti-Zionism.
I have a sense that they can get through Gaza and get Hamas eradicated from that area. You're going to see the popularity of Israel come back, and I think there'll be people and nations ready to expand the Abraham Accords. It's how it ends. Will be important in what happens after Hamas is no longer ruling there and no longer feared by everyone. Yuval, David, thanks so much. Best of luck. What's your next big event? What should people know if they want to follow you or help you out?
Definitely follow me across social media because the hate that I get is insane just for speaking up and speaking my mind. So you can find me all across social media at Yuval David. There aren't that many Yuval Davids out there. And I'm speaking at churches and synagogues across the country, helping empower people to be activists and advocates. It is our civic duty as Americans to try to make this country as best as it can be for us, for our families, for our communities. And my goal is to empower all Americans to do so.
Yuval David, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Since having the second baby, no housing, I've got a rent-stabilized apartment, so that's great. And I like how Mandami is on board with freezing the rent, like I think was it de Blasio did a couple years ago. So that was nice. Groceries are going up.
I lived here all my life, and they building on every corner, everywhere, but nowhere. And they talk about affordable living. Affordable living for who?
Especially when I see that people don't have nowhere to live because the rent is so high. And I see that people, they trying to take everything away. And that makes me sad.
Well, the affordability thing is something everybody should work on. Every leader, big and small city, big country, whatever it is. But to freeze rents and say that's going to be the issue and not understand how capitalism works when you freeze rents, how do you pay your bills when they climb? That's what Zohran Mamdani has not been able to answer. He doesn't answer anything. I want fast buses and I want them free. Meanwhile, we're so out of money, we're charging people to drive across the city with the first ever congestion tolls, which we seem to just be absorbing as a city. And sadly, if it does and becomes commonplace, it's coming to your city. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik has had enough. It looks like she's preparing to run for governor on the Republican ticket. She is GOP. She is going to be a candidate, I imagine, and will announce soon. She's currently chairwoman of the House Republican Leadership, House Armed Services Committee. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, welcome to the Brian Kilmeade Show.
Great to be with you again, Brian.
Before I get to the endorsement, which I think has just been a train wreck since she announced it, what do you say to those people that are worried about affordability?
Affordability is a top issue in New York, and it's because of single-party Democrat rule. Democrats have controlled New York State and New York City for decades. We are the highest tax state in the nation, the most burdensome regulation, the most anti-business, anti-family state in terms of our policies. So while Democrats want to shout affordability, it's their policies, their radical far-left tax and spend policies that have made New York City and New York the most unaffordable city and state in the country. And Republicans are going to continue to put forth solutions such as cutting taxes. I was proud to be the deciding vote for the largest tax cut for New Yorkers in the One Big Beautiful Bill. That, of course, is working with President Trump to cut taxes. What did all the Democrats want, like Kathy Hochul? They wanted the largest tax increase in our nation's history, which would have been even more burdensome for New Yorkers. So we're going to face this issue head on and deliver actual solutions instead of doubling down on the train wreck.
And Congresswoman, what about freezing rents? Are you going to do that?
We need to cut the cost to do building and make investments. That is what's driving this housing unaffordability issue is the regulatory environment, the tax environment. New York is the least friendly state in the country to do business, which is why you're seeing so many businesses flee. And the reality is when Mamdani talks about free this, free that, freeze the rent, free, X, Y, or Z, who's paying for it? It's the working New Yorkers. It's the hardworking Americans who are paying for that with higher and higher taxes. The challenge that's going to happen, Brian, is you have a Democrat, socialist-controlled city council in New York City, and right now Eric Adams has been a moderating force on that. Zohran Mamdani is going to be a rubber stamp. So if they think the policies are bad now, just wait until Mamdani, an anti-Semite communist, is mayor. It will be a rubber stamp radical shift to the left.
Here is Kathy Hochul. 2 days ago, she decides, I'm going to endorse Zohran Mamdani. And so far, Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, Hakeem Jeffries, not budging. They're not doing it. Why? Because he's radioactive politically for the Democrats because this country is not a socialist Marxist country. But listen to Governor Kathy Hochul explain, cut 36.
I've made it very clear that we have differences. Work with whoever the next mayor will be, and I do believe it'll be Zohran Mamdani. I do not agree with many of his views, but running a state government or a city government is very different. I disagree with many statements, and I've said that. But also, I believe that we need someone who's going to be open-minded and optimistic.
Really? Thanks. Thanks for that endorsement. Open-minded and optimistic. I'll vote for you. Is this all about her trying to neutralize her opponent in the primary?
Absolutely. This is how weak she is, Brian. She is the leader of the New York Democrat Party, and she's letting Zohran Mamdani instead lead her. And what is just really unbelievable is after she endorsed him, less than 24 hours later, he refused to endorse her. He refused to support her for governor. So she's beholden to the far left. This is not just I'm going to work with the mayor. She endorsed him. She's the highest-ranking official to do so. And that means she owns the defund the police policies. That means she owns Zohran Mamdani's proposal to abolish private property. That means she owns abolishing not only private property, but abolishing private health care insurance. That means she owns these tax hikes. She owns the anti-Semitism from Zohran Mamdani. So she can't continue to run from this. But what it really is, Brian, is her polling is very bad among Democrat voters. We see it. Obviously, this has been publicly reported. She is desperately trying to shore up her left, and she's beholden to them. I always said it was only a matter of time before she would bend the knee, and she certainly did.
Here it is. Here's how it sounded. Cut 37.
Are you supporting Hochul for re-election? And if so, are you worried that her supporting you is actually going to hurt her among swing voters next year?
You know, I tease you about being an immigrant father, about asking me about the thing beyond the thing. My focus is on November, and I'm excited to have the governor's support in that fight for November as we make it clear that we can put the days of City Hall and Albany being at war in the past.
That's not an endorsement. And Hank Scheinkopf, you know, a longtime political operative on the Democratic side, it said Mamdani looks like he is the head of the Democratic Party. This shows the power shift. Mamdani and his movement are in charge. And other people have said the same thing. But looking from your perspective, I know what you stand for. But you sound like somebody that might not be what the majority of New Yorkers stand for. You sound like what Long Island stands for, what Staten Island stands for, what upstate New York stands for, but not what New York City stands for, which has stopped Republicans from winning. How do you solve that?
Well, Brian, people want common sense. If you look at my record in Congress, I'm in the top most bipartisan members of Congress among all of leadership. I have one of the most independent record on the issues that matter when it is growing the economy, cutting taxes. The majority of New Yorkers agree with that. When it comes to supporting our law enforcement, the majority of New Yorkers agree with that. So I have a record of reaching well beyond party lines. We have a record not only of flipping my district, and yes, it's upstate, but people forget this was an Obama district. It was held by a Democrat beforehand, always a 50-50 situation. Yep. We win not only Republicans, we win independents overwhelmingly, and I peel off more than 25% of Democrats. And most importantly, we have enthusiasm to turn out the vote. My district, I have the highest voter turnout of any congressional district in New York State. That doesn't happen by accident. It means people are excited and energized to go to the polls. And we're going to put forth real solutions and a proven record. Let's roll the tape on Kathy Hochul. Kathy Hochul started her career in Erie County as a town official where she bragged about the Conservative Party endorsement. She bragged about the NRA endorsement to get the vote from upstate. And then she ran for Congress, only served one term because she was thrown out by the voters, and was really the accidental governor because Andrew Cuomo chose her as an LG because of regional issues. She was known to be totally outside of the decision-making process from Andrew Cuomo's perspective, and he wanted to replace her as lieutenant governor. She's accidental because he, of course, stepped down amidst all the controversies that he conducted. But Kathy Hochul will do or say whatever she has to. This is someone who, again, talked about how she was conservative for upstate, and now she's bending the knee to the Marxist communists. She's left New Yorkers so far behind and is putting her political future ahead of hardworking New Yorkers who she's putting last.
Well, why is it that Gillibrand, Schumer, and Hakeem Jeffries are on the sideline then?
Because they know it's so politically toxic. And Hakeem Jeffries, for those House seats, I mean, his focus is on the House majority. And as you know, it runs right through the state of New York, those key seats on Long Island, the Hudson Valley. And you saw Swazi, you saw Laura Gillen refuse to endorse Mamdani. So Hakeem, I think Hakeem ultimately will bend the knee as well as Hochul, but they're in a tough spot because he is wildly unpopular among not just Republicans, but Democrats as well.
So, Sienna, by the way, what did you learn from Lee Zeldin getting within, I think, 6 points of Hochul last time?
So number one, Lee Zeldin ran a great race. He and I came into Congress together, and we actually had sort of similar districts, different parts of the state, but we both flipped districts from Democrat to Republican. What Lee Zeldin proved was that this assumption that New York is a blue state, no state has moved more to the Republican direction than New York, and that started when the congressional seats were won, then Lee Zeldin ran, and then in the presidential, no state moved more Republican with Trump at the top of the ticket than New York. I think Zeldin also tapped into an excitement that it is possible. The fact that he came within 6 points when previously these are, big double-digit losses shows that there is a path in the right year with the right candidate. Zeldin did phenomenal. I mean, I thought he was going to win. So did a lot of people. The energy, enthusiasm was unlike anything we had seen. And we want to build on that, and we're going to have to build on that as Republicans. But it's always tough in New York. The other challenge is we're losing population because of the failed policy. So many people continue to leave, and I think Mamdani is going to expedite that, unfortunately for the state of New York. But those are our voters. So Zeldin proved a lot, and we need to build on that success.
So Siena did a poll, released it Tuesday, and it shows that you're trailing 52 to 27. Your thoughts? They sampled 802 people.
Yeah, so we've had a long history with Siena polling. Siena polling was totally off, not only on the presidential, but they were totally off on Lee Zeldin's gubernatorial race. What was really laughable out the poll is it says only 60% of Republicans are going to support Elise. That's not reality. I've never gotten less than 90% of Republicans ever in the entire history. We are more energy and enthusiastic among Republican voters. It also says that 60% of conservatives are voting for Kathy Hochul. That is fantasy land. It says that she's, hanging tough in Long Island. The same day that poll came out, there was another poll that showed that 60% of Nassau County voters do not support Kathy Hochul. So, we dove into the data points. Again, typical Siena polling. What I care about is real polling. And I'll tell you, Hochul's endorsement of Mamdani shows that she has major political problems and major polling issues.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know who told her to do that endorsement, but do you think you might be going against somebody else? His lieutenant, Delgado, I think the lieutenant governor?
Well, Delgado also served in the House, and he is running to Kathy Hochul's left.
Yeah.
And what's important for voters to know is that this is not just any lieutenant governor. This is her hand-picked lieutenant governor. He left the congressional seat to be the LG. And to have someone who works that up close and turns on her because she's such an incompetent governor, that tells me a lot. She is going to have a primary with Delgado. And again, Mamdani withholding that support, and the Working Families Party, which dictates where the New York Democrat Party is and runs them to the left. This is going to be very interesting to watch this play out. The other important point about that Siena poll, it was not a coincidence, Brian, that they put it out the same day as her Mamdani endorsement, where they tried to slip that in Sunday night to try to blunt the negative impact among voters.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting that she says, I love Mamdani because he's willing to take on Trump. When has that been a criteria, saying I don't want to work with the president?
Well, the dirty little secret is, and Kathy Hochul won't tell this to her Democrat and far left base, I know, when Congress is in session, I'm in D.C. She runs down to the White House quietly all the time, begs Trump, begs him. She is a weak leader. And, she says one thing, she does another. She wants to hide that from voters. And it's because, the talking point among far left voters is opposition to Trump. Trump is moving our country in the right direction, yet New York continues barreling down this path in the wrong one with single-party Democrat rule.
I tell you what, I was in your district. I had not known, it was the first time ever, even though I'm from New York, Fort Ticonderoga is a feature we have on What Made America Great, my series. So I was up there. It's amazing how beautiful that part of New York is. It would be tough for you to go to Albany.
Fort Ticonderoga is amazing. My district has just a tremendous history. If you look at the battles of the Revolutionary War, it's also home to the battles of Saratoga. And of course, as we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of our country, I hosted a big event with America 250 at Fort Ticonderoga earlier this year. So we really appreciate you highlighting such a gem we have. It's one of my favorite places. I grew up going there, and I've loved representing it in Congress.
I only got a minute left, but on your house, can I tap into your House seat for a second? You're on Armed Services. Are we in the process of selling Patriot missiles to NATO so they can give them to Ukraine? Because I heard that was being held up.
Well, certainly I have strongly supported President Trump's approach. During his first term, he provided defensive lethal aid, and we are going to continue to work with this administration to make sure that we're protecting, number one, U.S. national security, and that we have a strong partnership with our NATO allies, who President Trump has rightly said they need to increase their investment and not rely on the United States solely. So, that is the update there. I'm not going to get ahead of the president, of course, in his decision making.
All right. When are you going to make your decision? an announcement?
After the November elections, Brian, we launched Save Our State PAC, and I'm a big believer. We've done this in my district. You have to lay the groundwork. This is a 62-county state. You have to make sure that Republicans continue to do well. We've made those investments in each of the 62 counties. We have key races, and after this November, I look forward to making my announcement. And we're getting an outpouring of support all across the state.
Well, Congresswoman, you're an impactful force in Washington. We always love having you on. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian.
You got it. Elise Stefanik from the 21st District in New York is going to run for the Republican ticket first, try to get the nomination, and it looks like she's going to run against what we think will be Governor Kathy Hochul, who is the utter definition of vulnerable.